All right. Show me the money. NFL picks for week number 9 here on the podcast. We are about to the halfway point of the regular season by calendar. Joining me today to make the picks of the week, another member, another host, co-host of the Sorry to Interrupt podcast. Sean Rowe is here. Sean, how are you?
Mike, thanks for having me, buddy. Good to be on. Appreciate the invite. And I just want to let everybody know, you played that great intro, Show Me the Money. I've done a great job of being horrendously bad with picks. So if you fade all of my picks, I'll probably make you money.
Yeah, well, we'll see if we're agreement on any of the picks this week. So that would be bad for me if we are in this case. But
Yes,
those
it would.
Yeah, those of you listeners to the podcast here may not have gotten the origin story, Sean. Sean's a big fan of the Giants, so you want to tell everybody how that happened?
Yeah, my dad is a diehard Jets fan, and the first real football game I ever remember watching was the 2000 NFC Championship game when the Giants beat the Vikings 41 nothing.
Well, that's a
And I
good
just
one.
remember loving Tiki Barber, and obviously the next game they got crushed by Baltimore in the Super Bowl, but I just remember saying that's my team. And my dad didn't have any fight about that, which I think he knew he would have felt a little guilty raising me a Jets fan. So um, I went against him there, and I've been big blue, but it's been a rough 10 years, dude. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, you got 2 Super Bowls in your lifetime. That's nice.
That's why I said 10 years.
Yeah, for me, it's been a rough, like long, rough time here. But Giants here, obviously, I don't know if you pay attention on Monday, their game against the Steelers, because it was game 3 of the World Series not at the same time. So sure there was some split screening going on here. Like, what would you take away from that game, from what you saw?
It's more of the same, honestly, for the Giants. Like, I feel like I've watched a version of that game 1,000 times, including like five this year. Like, they have talent on the team, like Tom and I, and when Will's joined us too on the pod, like I say this all the time. Like, they're not bereft of talent, especially when Neighbors plays. Like, he's an electric player. I think Tyron Tracy was a good draft pick, but you have Andrew Thomas get hurt, and the offensive line that had been playing well throughout the season just completely falls apart. And I can't watch Daniel Jones in prime time anymore. I can't really watch him at all. And it's just like they do things that just bad teams do. They shoot themselves in the foot. Like, I didn't have split screen, but I did go during one of the commercials of the World Series game, Mike. I went to the Giants game and I watched 3 plays. Good first down, got called back for illegal man downfield. Daniel Jones sack, conversion, and then play called back for holding. And I'm like, okay, I've seen all I need to in this game. They're gonna lose, and it was just more of the same. Like, this is not a good team. I don't have much confidence in the coaching staff. They don't correct mistakes. As a Jets fan, you've seen all the mental mistakes that your team makes.
Yep.
The Giants are on par with that. The week before they scored 3 points against the Eagles. Saquon Barkley had more yards by himself than the Giants offense had in total. So I know you just asked me about the Steelers game and I went a little all over, but I'm just so fed up with this team, man. Like, I don't trust that they have any idea what they're doing. I don't trust Mara to bring in the right people. They had a great draft class. Honestly, everybody that Shane drafted has contributed to this team, but they got to move off Jones because he'll just kill you. That Bengals game, that Cowboys game, that Washington game, all games that they were good enough to win, and we're talking about a very different season. But he's not good enough, they're not good enough, and we're staring 2-6 right in the face.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought Daniel Jones up because that's my next question here. Because obviously, like we've seen him get pulled from games. We saw the Eagle game that went to Drew Lock. Brian Dable stuck with him against the Steelers. Obviously, he has the contract where he can get out of it after this season, where the only way the money screws you is he gets hurt. So, question is here: 2-6. You have a cable backup in Drew Lock. Like, how much longer do you think they let Jones ride before they pull the plug and just get ready for next year?
I think the backup quarterback is the most celebrated position in all of sports because everybody wants to see what that option is until we realize they're not very good. And I know Drew Lock. I watched him in Denver. I watched him in Seattle. He's not very good. So if you're already paying Jones, you might as well just keep running him out there. I don't see Drew Lock doing anything with this team differently than Daniel Jones is. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think Drew Lock is a capable backup. I think he's just there. And ultimately the Giants are going to get off of this contract. It's not going to kill them, but you know, what my biggest fear is, Mike, and I'll be honest with you here. My biggest fear is that something happens like last year where they win two or three meaningless games in the end of the season and screw themselves out of being a top 2 or 3 pick. If they didn't have that Tommy DeVito little mini run there, they have Jaden Daniels or they have Drake May, and instead it's still Daniel Jones. So um, he's the best option right now, which is really really sad. So I don't know, man. I can't deal with. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. But Daniel Jones is probably still the best option.
Yeah, I'm not arguing in terms of like play style here. My argument would be that like your risk is like if you decide that Daniel Jones is not the guy, you run him out, he gets hurt, then his contract is bigger, the money's guaranteed. You can't get the cap savings, you cut him. So that's the argument you would make.
No, I hear you, and it's probably maybe something they visit later in the season if they continue to lose. I just don't think right now it makes any sense. Like if that's your fear, then that just further shows how inept of an organization you are. For whatever reason, he got paid, and we know the reason why he got paid. They were stuck. They expected to be awful that first year under Shane and Dable. They didn't suck. They went to the playoffs. Jones had one of the best playoff performances a Giants quarterback has ever had in that game against Minnesota. You weren't bad enough to draft a quarterback in a really, in a draft that, obviously Bryce Young goes number one. And then who was your other option? Derek Carr? Like you were gonna go back with Daniel Jones and you thought you figured something out. And it's just been he hasn't won a home game since December of 2022. He's won in 15 in playoff games or in primetime games. Like it's just amazing. I've never seen a draft pick get the leash that Daniel Jones has through different administrations. Like he's gone through 3 head coaches. Pat Shurmur was the one that drafted him. Somehow he survived Pat Shurmur, Joe Judge, and he might cost Brian Dable his job. Like, are we getting the 7th year of him? It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we just saw the Colts pull Anthony Richardson after 10 games, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Bryce Young didn't even get a 2nd year before Carolina was like, nope. So it's crazy.
Yeah, it is nuts here. And they got another game on Sunday here against the Commanders where they go overseas here. And we saw the first game, the Giants could not get off the field against Jaden Daniels. They lose at the gun because of the Brian Dable mismatch and not having a kicker that game. But like it's just things spread here. It's only 3.5 points, but like I feel like this is not a great spot for the Giants here.
No, I agree with you there. I don't think it is either. I mean, the only history you can fall back on is the Giants play the Commanders very well, but they've done that when the Commanders didn't really have a quarterback either. What's unfortunately going to happen here is you're going to have to deal with Jaden Daniels. And Mike, the Giants pass rush is one of the best units in all of the NFL when you look at it. They lead the league in sacks. Dexter Lawrence from the interior is just wreaking havoc on quarterbacks. You got Brian Burns, who's played great. Azeez Ojulari's played great. Kayvon Thibodeau, when he's been healthy, has been really good. Like, they're going to create pressure. My question is, will they be able to actually get Daniels on the ground? And if he extends plays, the secondary is going to get burned by McLaurin and company. So I don't like this at all. And the front four for Washington is actually pretty decent. We've seen their defense improve every week during the season. So I don't like this spot for the Giants at all. And then I think that when they play the Panthers in Germany next week, the loser has to stay there for the rest of the season.
As we've seen joked about like on the social media streets and this match when the team got the bad starts here, this feels like punishment for the Germans' role in the World Wars since to send them that game.
Oh, it's those memes and jokes have been all over the place, and it's true. It's like the Treaty of Versailles wasn't enough. They had to give them Giants Panthers.
Yeah, that's next week though, and we'll get to the reason why you're here, which we're gonna do some NFL picks. And my friend Nick D'Alessio came by last week to do the picks. He went 1-2 on the week. He had the 49ers laying the 4 on Sunday Football because of Cowboys. He won that one. The Dolphins laying 3.5 against the Cardinals. They lost the game outright, so lost there. He took your boys getting 6.5 and looked good for a bit. Then the Steelers ran away. The Giants tried to get him back in the door, but they could not. So 1-2 for Nick last week.
Hey, listen, I'm going to try to be a little bit better than that as the guest host, but I'm not going to promise anything. I actually, Tom and I recorded our NFL pod right before I hopped on with you, and I don't like the slate this week at all. I'm not a big fan of a lot of these games, but I had to come up with three for you, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, my week was not that good. I ended up with a very, very bad 0-3 week for the first time this season.
Hey man, it happens to the best of us. This has been a really tough year to pick games. I've just had a really tough time getting a feel for these games.
Yeah, so to reset what I did last week, I had the Packers laying 3.5 and the trash spot against the Jaguars. They only won by 3, so they didn't cover the number. I had the Seahawks getting 3 at home against Buffalo. They got blown out of the building. I had the Bengals laying 2.5 at home against the Eagles. They also got blown out. So 0-3 for me last week. On the year 12, 11, and 1. But I started 12. I started like two. I think I was 8-3 in one of my first 4 weeks, and I really faded over the last few. So I got to try and get back on track.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, sir.
Yeah, and the challengers are 12-12, so it's a tight race right now from the guests and me. So, as the guest, Sean, you can go first. So, where are you going to go here for pick number 1?
Yeah, so for pick number 1, I'm actually taking both locals this week. They were actually 2 games that I felt the best about. I'm going to go to Thursday night where Houston is plus 1.5. I don't know how the Jets continue to be favored in some of these games. But they are favored at home, so I'm going to take Houston plus the 1.5 on the road. I don't like what I'm seeing from this Texans team. The play calling's been really bad, Mike. Like I'm not really sure what they're trying to accomplish on offense. Like they just once Nico Collins went out, everything's kind of gone up in flames. But the Jets, even if they're playing a tight game, I trust that they will make that one mistake, whether it's missing a kick. I know Zerline got placed on IR. They'll either miss a kick or they'll have a bad penalty or they'll do something that costs them this game. So I'm going to take Houston.
Yeah, I think in terms of the argument for why the Texans are underdogs game, I think this is a combination of the Diggs injury, some short week wackiness with the travel here. But I've watched the Jets a lot over the last 5-6 weeks. There's no reason they should favor over anyone on any field right now. So you're on the right side of this one.
I think so. With all my luck, the Jets will have their second best game of the year after that New England Thursday night game. Maybe Thursday night's a good night for them, but yeah, I don't have any trust in them.
All right, let's pick one. Where are you going to pick 2?
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to take both local. So I'm going to take the Commanders minus 3.5 against the Giants for all the reasons I detailed. I just think that Daniels is going to make plays. The Giants stink at home. Like I said, Jones hasn't won a home game since, and I know he missed the second half of last year, but he hasn't won a home game in almost 2 years. So I think Washington coming off that high of that Hail Mary last week, they want to keep competition with the Eagles for the NFC East. I like Washington in this minus the 3.5.
Yeah, spoil one of my picks. That's a family play with us on the Commanders here. I just do not think that the Giants are set up here well in this spot. I think short week coming back in here. They're banged up. They have a lot of guys hurt. Commanders coming off that big win against the Bears and the Hail Mary. I think momentum carries them forward here. I think they win this one pretty easily.
Yeah, no, you and I are on lockstep, so we'll see if I mush you or not, as Tom likes to say.
All right, so where are you going with your last pick?
So, like I said, Mike, I didn't like a lot of the games this week. For my last one, I'm doing something I don't usually do for listeners of your podcast. I have had a running history with Kirk Cousins and then subsequently the Atlanta Falcons always screwing me. And now they're together in this monster of something that could beat me. But you know what? I don't like this Dallas team. And Atlanta can put up points. They can run the ball with Robinson and Algier. The Cowboys can't stop the run. Atlanta's 2.5-point favorite in Georgia. You mean to tell me they can't win by a field goal? I don't like the situation that Dallas is in with their inability to run, their inability to stop the run. They don't have a lot of big-time playmakers outside of CeeDee Lamb. So, listen, I think the NFC South is Atlanta's to lose, and they need to win a game like this against, Dallas isn't what they've been in the past, but I think they're still a measuring stick. So I'm going to take the Falcons.
Yeah, I don't like this Cowboys team either. I feel like there's something definitely off with the vibes of them this year. I don't know what it is, whether it's all the holdouts, whether it's, them saying, oh, we're going all in, then doing nothing in the offseason. Like something is rotten there this year, and it's kind of showing how they're playing.
Let me ask you, do you think I don't disagree with you, by the way. I think that's true, but Tom and I have talked about it on the pod, much to Will's chagrin, but what do they do well? they can't like they don't have a very good defense. They don't get off the field. I don't think Zimmer has been a good DC, but he hasn't really had good personnel. The offensive line is nothing resembling what it's been in the past, and they have no running game. And like you're forcing Dak to be just a pure pocket passer. He's not using his legs at all. Like that's the worst version of Dak. What in your opinion does Dallas do well? Because the more I watch them, I don't really think it's much, if anything.
Good question. Don't have an answer for you.
Okay. I was wondering if you saw anything because I do agree with you. Like the holdouts are not good, the mismanagement of the cap, not going after free agents, saying you're all in and not doing anything. But I just look at this team and I'm like, I just don't think it's that good.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so either. So your picks are on the board. I've given you one with the Commanders family play. Pick two. I'm going to a 4:05 game. I'm taking the Rams, laying a point and a half in Seattle against the Seahawks here. Something of I feel like these teams are kind of going in opposite directions here. I feel like the Rams are on the way up. They get the big win against Minnesota on Thursday night. They get their two big receivers back here. Seattle has been trending the wrong way. DK's been getting hurt. They've been playing sloppy football of late. The Rams, obviously at Seattle home field, you would be worried about. But you know, the Rams have won their 3 of the last 4 times they've gone to Seattle over the last couple of years. I think they're playing well, only laying a point and a half. So I think if the Rams win the game outright, I'm pretty good, unless it's some 1-point weirdness here. But I'll lay the point and a half with the Rams. I feel like they're a good spot this week. So give me LA. Pick number 2 for me, I guess.
I like that pick a lot out of you. Seattle just their defense is bad. I mean, Buffalo blitzed them last week in Seattle, and Geno hasn't been playing great either. So I like that pick. LA is definitely a different team when Kupp and Nakua are in there.
All right, let's pick 2. Pick number 3. This is a big game in the early window here. A lot of points. Don't know why I'm getting so many with Denver, but I'm going to take the 9.5 against Baltimore in Baltimore. I know this is a Ravens team that can look very scary at times, but their D is bad. And Denver's defense travels. This team gets up 15 points a game. They do not get many yards here. I know you're worried about Baltimore like keeping Bo Nix down, but Baltimore's D has been sloppy all year long. I feel like I'm very high on the points with Denver here. I don't think they're going to win the game, but you're getting me almost 10 points on a road. They playoff caliber defense. I'll take the points. So give me the Broncos for my last pick of the week.
Very good pick. I'm hating myself now for not going with that because I just got burned. The Ravens have burned me a couple times this year with high point spreads. The Raiders game got me, and then this past week I actually took them against the Browns. And I mean, I think I realized they weren't covering that 10-point spread like in the first quarter with Jameson there. What about the Ravens? Like, what is Tom and I have been trying to decide with them? Like, they have just a complete inability to keep big leads and almost choke in. Is it a lack of discipline? Is it the way that their defense goes into prevent? Like, they just look like a team that's waiting for the time to expire before they can actually lose because it doesn't resemble what they've been doing the first half of the game, the first 3 quarters of the game.
I think it's a talent drain on the defense, to be honest with you. I think they've lost too many bodies over the years. I think now it's catching up to them.
Yeah, and Humphreys is out right now, too, after his 2-interception game against Tampa.
Yeah, so to reset the picks for the week here, we have Sean went with the Texans on Thursday night, getting a point and a half against the Jets. The Commanders laying 3.5 in MetLife against the Giants, and the Falcons laying 2.5 home against the Cowboys. My picks: Rams laying a point and a half in Seattle against the Seahawks. Family play with Sean, the Commanders laying 3.5, and the Broncos getting 9.5 in Baltimore. Those are your picks for week number 9 here on the podcast. And we'll be back next week for week number 10. I'm going to be joined by a good friend of mine, Troy Moriello, a Cowboy fan. So we'll see how his Cowboys do in Atlanta this week. See how he feels about your pick, how that works out.
Yeah, I'm sure he's not too pleased, but I think he's much more angry with Jerry than he is with me.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. I mean, and then this is a bad spot for the Cowboys. When you look at that schedule, they got the Eagles coming here. They got the Commanders soon. Like, they have a rough 4 games before the Giants show up for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least they'll be able to enjoy their Thanksgiving this year.
That's for sure here, Sean. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. People want to follow you on social media and keep up with you guys on the Sorry Interrupt podcast. How can I do that?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. It's at Sorry Sports. We've been doing a lot of content. Tom and I did our NFL Wednesday. I've been doing a lot of solo pods recapping World Series games. Tom and Red have been doing their fantasy football pod every Tuesday. Will and I have been doing college football every week. So we've been doing a lot of content, trying to get a lot more out there. Follow us at Sorry Sports. And Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. This was a lot of fun.